Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight on our news.
Reese Chipman says he's considering legal action against the government. Find out how far he's willing to take that process.
Very little answers given from the Prime Minister's press secretary today on the Oban Energies deal.
The National Security Minister weighs in on the PLP deputy leader's plans to take action against the Prime Minister.
Boat owners are frustrated over an ultimatum given by the government. The details are straight ahead.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, former chairman of the Antiquities, Monuments and Museum Corporation, Reese Chipman, says he's evaluating his legal options after being fired from his government-appointed post on Saturday. Jared Higgs tells us more.
We are now reviewing the Constitution and our laws with regards to character defamation and assassination.
Fired Antiquities and Monuments Corporation Chairman Reese Chipman says he's considering whether Prime Minister Minnis has defamed him. The Prime Minister gave Chipman the axe on Saturday after he refused to resign.
After having a conversation with my 8-year-old, a young person, not even your age, in terms of the comments that were made, I think it was appropriate in having that discussion with my daughter to seek jurisdiction, to seek clarity and understanding of what opportunities are out there if it happens to her.
Minnis would not give a reason for Chipman's firing, telling reporters he may never divulge the full details. Considering Minnis's campaign pledge of transparency, Chipman said he was disappointed by Minnis's clipped response.
I think the country was disappointed. Right? First of all, if I've been in business now for 20 years, and if I'm terminating someone or even asking them to resign, there's forthwith in the front of me exactly what it is that these are the concerns and the issues I have, and how it relates to my decision. It went a little further with regards to his answers, and I think that is where I think there's a fine line.
Chipman, who met with the Prime Minister and other senior officials on Friday, says he was told that the reason his resignation was being requested was because he was not getting along with certain people at the corporation. He says if there is any damning revelation about him, the Prime Minister should spill the beans. And
so whatever it is, he ought to bring it to the forefront so persons can know well whether this is or is not, and we can move forward.
In a letter from Chipman to Dr. Minnis that went viral on social media, Chipman said he would submit his resignation following the resignation of several senior AMMC officials. He went on to accuse the AMMC of violating the act that governs the corporation, actions he says he fought against.
I stand on the shoulders of more than 400 FNM council members and many free national movement supporters, and this hurts me. However, the standards of the FNM and the Free National Movement have been compromised, and we must stand, and stand we will.
Chipman said he and the Prime Minister haven't spoken since Friday. His parliamentary colleague, Renward Wells, who is no stranger to falling out of favor with party leadership, was asked about the matter earlier today.
Nice try, but the Bahamas, in the Bahamas, the Prime Minister speaks to such issues, and we all serve at the pleasure of the Prime Minister.
According to Minnis, Cabinet was given the reason for Chipman's firing today. Reporting for our news, I'm Jared Higgs.
Well, one day after the Prime Minister revealed that he did not know if an environmental impact assessment had started on a controversial oil refinery project, his press secretary announced today that a team from the Bahamas Environment, Science and Technology Commission is currently on Grand Bahama visiting the Oban Energy site. Kyle Joaquin reports.
Members of the media got very little answers today from the Prime Minister's press secretary during his weekly press briefing as he was grilled on the many questions surrounding the Oban Energies deal.
I know the BESS Commission is on the ground in Grand Bahama. What they're doing, they will have to tell us, but the BESS Commission is there.
Just last week, Oban President Satpal Duna said the BESS Commission told Oban Energies that before it could have a meeting with the company regarding its environmental impact assessment, Oban had to sign the heads of agreement with the government. When asked if the Prime Minister will even address the mounting concerns surrounding the project, Newbold said this.
He will answer. I can't tell you when he will answer them, But he's aware. I mean, you know, the Prime Minister is the Prime Minister after all. He's here in the Bahamas. He knows what's going on. And when he feels he needs to answer, or if he has some answers that he thinks the public ought to have, he will certainly provide them.
Newbold added that the Prime Minister has already spoken on the Oban Energy saga.
He made the address and he thought, this is what I ought to say to the Bahamian people, and that's what he did.
Last week, the Prime Minister admitted that there have been some missteps since the project was announced. During that time, he said there will be a full review of the project, which includes the Bahamas Investment Authority, the same body that mandates that all non-Bahamians or permanent residents seeking to do business in the Bahamas must, among other things, submit an EIA before the project is approved. Now, as for how that is going.
Not started as yet, but discussions are going on as to how that will look.
Despite his inability to answer a number of the media's questions on the Oban issue, a more lighthearted moment from the press secretary after being asked whether he considers his job tough when it comes to topics like this one.
My job?
Yes.
No, I expect what I get from you, you know. I used to sit where you sit, and I know what you have to do. I would do it too if I was sitting there. But I also understand that, again, the primary role of a free press is to hold the government to account. I understand that as well as anyone. Would I like you not to ask me some questions sometimes? Yeah, that's the way it is.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
And while he admits there's nothing stopping Progressive Liberal Party Deputy Leader Chester Cooper from filing a police report against Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, National Security Minister Marvin Dames today said he hopes Cooper wasn't wasting the police force's time. Jasmine Brown tells us more.
The National Security Minister says Cooper is free to do whatever he wants once he does not waste the police time.
I hope he's not wasting the police time, because police have so much more to be focusing on.
Cooper said he feels compelled to report Minnis after the Prime Minister cautioned him to be careful. That warning came after Cooper called on Minnis to resign for misleading Parliament when he told parliamentarians on February 14th that a heads of agreement would be signed on February 19th with Oban Energies. Minnis later admitted that the official heads of agreement for the project had already been signed 4 days before his announcement in Parliament. In response to Minnis' warning, Cooper said in a statement, "If the Prime Minister were the least bit careful in his own dealings on behalf of the Bahamian people, perhaps we would not find ourselves in the mess we are currently in with regard to Oban Energies." Cooper continued, "I hope the Prime Minister's words do not constitute any threat. However, out of an abundance of caution, I feel compelled to report this matter to the police."
Listen, he's a citizen. He can make whatever complaint he wants. I don't control that. I don't tell the police what to investigate and what not to investigate. If he feels that he has sufficient to make a formal complaint, that's his right.
But Dames quickly added that he is not interested in playing political games.
To rise above the fray of political antics and, movie cuts. It's nonsense, and the Bahamian people are sick and tired of it. It's time for all of us as politicians, no matter which side of the fence we sit, to get to business and do the people's work. All of this garbage of petty politics need to be a thing of the past.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, the government has acquired the old Phil's Food Service building on Gladstone Road and has announced plans to relocate the General Post Office to that site. Press Secretary Anthony Newbold telling reporters this is government's solution to the issues employees of the East Hill Street Post Office have faced for years.
The government has decided by compulsory acquisition to acquire the former Phil's building on Gladstone Road and retrofit it to accommodate the General Post Office. What it will cost to do that, the amount of time, the Ministry of Works will have to go in there and make a determination on that.
And in just a few weeks, aviation authorities are set to begin clamping down on the long-standing practice of hacking at airports across the country. The aviation minister says he has charged the Bahamas Civil Aviation Authority to work with air traffic services and the fixed-based operators to implement a regime targeting those with private licenses. The issue of hacking was thrust back into national headlines in January after a deadly plane crash in waters off Mastic Point, Andros.
Man, I'm pushing them as hard as I can. I want those regulations changed, and as quickly as possible. So I call the Director General of the Bahamas Civil Aviation Authority weekly to find out how we're coming along with those regulations. And they've got a lot going on, so certainly, I would say in the next month or two.
In other news, an inter-ministry cleanup effort to remove boaters along the Arawak Key Strip has some boat owners upset. Notices were handed out and signage erected yesterday, giving them an ultimatum to move their boats or have them removed by government. Our Jillian Gray has the story.
This notice to vacate Arawak Key was given to boat owners for the 4th time. However, one owner says if he's denied access to this area, he's ready to take legal action.
This one seems that they are serious because they're telling you you'll be trespassing after 30 days, meaning that they're going to put up some fence or barrier. So the only recourse you have to request a judicial review to the Supreme Court and have the matter heard before the court.
Lands and Surveys, the Port Department, Environmental Health, and the Office of the Prime Minister are conducting a joint cleanup of the area. Despite Johnson's threat to take action, Assistant Port Controller Craig Curtis, who declined an on-camera interview, told our news team they're guided by the Attorney General's office. This notice to vacate portions of Arawak Key threatens eviction of any person that does not have a subsisting lease or license. Johnson says for the past 5 years, he's been trying to get one, but with no luck.
It's just like, just stop your business. It just got to be virtually impossible. It got to be virtually impossible. And I mean, they got to be prepared for a fight because you can't just stop your business. I mean, how could you just stop your business? You invest all your money buying these equipment. These equipment ain't cheap.
Johnson isn't the only one upset over the government's notice.
I've been out here now for about 10 or 12 years. I ain't gonna move. I ain't gonna move. Government can't move me. Government can't move me. All right? And I see I shut down too, right? All right? All right? Government can't move me, all right?
You think it's right?
My name is no, ain't right. The more around here.
A tearful Odwin Stephen Neely says governments come and go, but businesses occupying these portions of Arawak Key aren't going anywhere.
We've been here all our life. All right? And God is good with us. All right? And I got my knees. And I ain't gonna move.
Meanwhile, Johnson said he is willing to remove the debris left by previous companies at no cost. However, he says displacing the 5 companies that currently occupy the area makes no sense.
The government don't use this land. I mean, if we Bahamians and we paying our license, what the government need to do is come out here and make money. I mean, they get all kinds of ways, instead of just harassing the Bahamian people who trying to survive. Ain't everybody want teeth and murder man, people who trying to survive on honest business, and they being given us point from we start, from they win. They come out here and they trying to stop you.
Johnson says he has spent quite a bit on his equipment and would be willing to comply with the notice if an alternative site is identified. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Still to come on Our News, the Labor Minister responds to criticism over the Shantytown Committee's census. Plus, we take a bite of Baha Mar's Regatta food hall this Tasty Tuesday. Stay with us.